Can you believe it? Moments on the border or the moments of actual transition in life are very special and eerie to me. Even this something as simple as finishing a book. I don't know. It causes me to feel things. All right, this is the 119th episode of the Henry George Daily Devotional. It is October 10th. I believe I started this series. Oh, I guess I could look it up this way a little more easily. Looks like my first episode was February 26th. So this has been almost 8 months. Not the largest commitment of all time, but a significant one. I will probably continue reading Henry George's works and live streaming them, especially because I want to do that with the Georgism Discord servers book club. But here we go. We will finish Progress in Poverty, an inquiry into the cause of industrial depressions and increase of want with increase of wealth, the remedy. The remedy is the land value tax. The cause is private property in land, land which no one made, land which everyone needs, land which our laws allow the hoarding and monopolization of. And this leads to corruption, tyranny, and the rotting and falling of a society. Let's see what George thinks is important to tell us here at the end. Conclusion: the problem of individual life. The days of the nation bear no trace of all the sunshine so far foretold. The cannon speaks in the teacher's place. The age is weary with work and gold. And high hopes wither and memories wane. On hearths and altars the fires are dead. But that brave faith hath not lived in vain. And this is all that our watcher said. Francis Brown. Conclusion: the problem of individual life. George writes, my task is done, yet the thought still mounts. The problems we have been considering lead into a problem higher and deeper still. Behind the problems of social life lies the problem of individual life. I have found it impossible to think of the one without thinking of the other. And so, I imagine, will it be with those who, reading this book, go with me in thought. For, as says Guizot, when the history of civilization is completed, when there is nothing more to say as to our present existence, man inevitably asks himself whether all is exhausted, whether he has reached the end of all things. This problem I cannot now discuss. I speak of it only because the thought which, while writing this book, has come with inexpressible cheer to me, may also be of cheer to some who read it. Whatever be its fate, it will be read by some who in their heart of hearts have taken the cross of a new crusade. This thought will come to them without my suggestion, but we are sure that we see a star when we know that others also see it. The truth that I have tried to make clear will not find easy acceptance. If that could be, it would have been accepted long ago. If that could be, it would never have been obscured. But it will find friends, those who will toil for it, suffer for it, if need be, die for it. This is the power of truth. Will it at length prevail? Ultimately, yes, but in our own times, or in times of which any memory of us remains, who shall say? For the man who, seeing the want and misery, the ignorance and brutishness caused by unjust social institutions, sets himself, in so far as he has strength, to right them, there is disappointment and bitterness. So it has been of old times, so is it even now. But the bitterest thought, and it sometimes comes to the best and bravest, is that of the hopelessness of the effort, the futility of the sacrifice. To how few of those who sow the seed is it given to see it grow, or even with certainty to know that it will grow. Let us not disguise it. Over and over again has the standard of truth and justice been raised in this world. Over and over again has it been trampled down, oftentimes in blood. If they are weak forces that are opposed to truth, how should error so long prevail? If justice has but to raise her head, to have injustice flee before her, how should the wail of the oppressed so long go up? But for those who see truth and would follow her, for those who recognize justice and would stand for her, success is not the only thing. Success. Why, falsehood has often that to give, and injustice often has that to give. Must not truth and justice have something to give that is their own by proper right, theirs in essence and not by accident? That they have, and that here and now every one who has felt their exaltation knows. But sometimes the clouds sweep down. It is sad, sad reading. The lives of the men who would have done something for their fellows. To Socrates they gave the hemlock. Gracchus they killed with sticks and stones. I don't know Gracchus. I don't remember Gracchus. And one, greatest and purest of all, they crucified. These seem but types. Today Russian prisons are full, and in long processions, men and women who but for high-minded patriotism might have lived in ease and luxury, move in chains towards the death and life of Siberia. And in penury and want, in neglect and contempt, destitute even of the sympathy that would have been so sweet, how many in every country have closed their eyes? This we see, but do we see it all? In writing I have picked up a newspaper. In it is a short account, evidently translated from a semi-official report, of the execution of 3 nihilists at Kiev. The Prussian subject Brantner, the unknown man calling himself Antonov, and the nobleman Osinski. At the foot of the gallows they were permitted to kiss one another. Then the hangman cut the rope. The surgeons pronounced the victims dead. The bodies were buried at the foot of the scaffold, and the nihilists were given up to eternal oblivion. Thus says the account. I do not believe it. No, not to oblivion. I have in this inquiry followed the course of my own thought. When in my mind I set out on it, I had no theory to support, no conclusions to prove. I have been reading his previous book, Our Land and Land Policy, and he definitely hadn't formulated all of this theory at that time. He was searching still. Only when I first realized the squalid misery of a great city, it appalled and tormented me, and would not let me rest, for thinking of what caused it and how it could be cured. But out of this inquiry has come to me something I did not think to find, and a faith that was dead revives. The yearning for a further life is natural and deep. It grows with intellectual growth, and perhaps none really feel it more than those who have begun to see how great is the universe, and how infinite are the vistas which every advance in knowledge opens before us, vistas which would require nothing short of eternity to explore. But in the mental atmosphere of our times, to the great majority of men on whom mere creeds have lost their hold, it seems impossible to look on this yearning, save as a vain and childish hope, arising from man's egotism, and for which there is not the slightest ground or warrant, but which, on the contrary, seems inconsistent with positive knowledge. Now, when we come to analyze and trace up the ideas that thus destroy the hope of a future life, we shall find them, I think, to have their source not in any revelations of physical science, but in certain teachings of political and social science which have deeply permeated thought in all directions. They have their root in doctrines that there is a tendency to the production of more human beings than can be provided for, that vice and misery are the result of natural laws, and the means by which advance goes on, and that human progress is by a slow race development. These are not things he believes. These are the things which we have spent hours discussing and debunking. This idea that there is a tendency to the production of more human beings than can be provided for. You don't understand how much energy is available if you believe this. This is only a true thing given the tyranny, given the siphoning of power of landlords. But without that, there is so much energy. We are so far from being out of energy. That vice and misery are the result of natural laws. There are some things the land value tax won't solve. I don't know. There was a recent rift in some of the personal relationships of people I am close to, and it's not really my business, but I eventually did talk to one of the people, and one of the first things they started talking about was how stressed out they are about money, which was sort of surprising to me, but not to George. But you also wonder if this individual had more money, because they already have a fair amount, wouldn't, sort of as George says, our desires grow as soon as they're filled. Man as an animal is not like other animals who only want to eat and sleep and reproduce. We want to eat and sleep and reproduce and wear cool shoes and do our hair right and have shiny things, lots of shiny things. And those aren't bad. It's only bad if we deny others the right to reproduce and eat and sleep and feel warm and safe so that we can have shiny things. And that human progress is by slow race development. I was thinking about this this morning. I read some blogs making all kinds of wild claims or discussing wild ideas about the future and AI and society and physics and black holes and singularities. And it's all overwhelming. And then I think, next time you see another human, and I was just like in my neighborhood, you just see random middle-aged people out in their yard doing yard work. You just think of that human animal. Get rid of all their clothes and their hair care products and their eyeglasses, and they're just this creature, and they're not much different than the human creature was. If we are to believe history, it sure doesn't seem they're much different from a human creature 10,000 years ago. These doctrines, which have been generally accepted as a proved truth, do what, except as scientific interpretations have been colored by them, the extensions of physical sciences do not do. Okay, what do? They reduce the individual to insignificance. They destroy the idea that there can be in the ordering of the universe any regard for his existence or any recognition of what we call moral qualities. It is difficult to reconcile the idea of human immortality with the idea that nature wastes men by constantly bringing them into being where there is no room for them. It is difficult to reconcile the idea of human immortality with the idea that nature wastes men by constantly bringing them into being where there is no room for them. Hmm. I mean, nature brings lots of animals into being where there's no room for them, in some sense, for them to get eaten up by other animals, other predators, population dynamics. But I guess that is why it's difficult to reconcile. Like, if you think if you think humans are no different than the other animals, then yeah, you won't be able to really make that work with human immortality. Not very well, perhaps. I don't know. Maybe we can make dogs immortal. That would be nice. It is impossible to reconcile the idea of an intelligent and beneficent creator with the belief that the wretchedness and degradation, which are the lot of such a large proportion of humankind, results from his enactments. While the idea that man mentally and physically is the result of slow modifications perpetuated by heredity irresistibly suggests the idea that it is the race life, not the individual life, which is the object of human existence. Thus has vanished with many of us, and is still vanishing with more of us, that belief which in the battles and ills of life affords the strongest support and deepest consolation. Now, in the inquiry through which we have passed, we have met these doctrines and seen their fallacy. We have seen that population does not tend to outrun subsistence. We have seen that the waste of human powers and the prodigality of human suffering do not spring from natural laws, but from the ignorance and selfishness of men in refusing to conform to natural laws. We have seen that human progress is not by altering the nature of men, but that on the contrary, the nature of men seems, generally speaking, always the same. Thus, the nightmare which is banishing from the modern world the belief in a future life is destroyed. Not that all difficulties are removed, for turn which way we may, we come to what we cannot comprehend, but that difficulties are removed which seem conclusive and insuperable. I assume this means undefeatable, impossible to overcome. And thus hope springs up. But this is not all. Political economy has been called the dismal science, and as currently taught is hopeless and despairing. But this, as we have seen, is solely because she has been degraded and shackled, her truths dislocated, her harmonies ignored, the words she would utter gagged in her mouth, and her protest against wrong turned into an endorsement of injustice. Freed as I have tried to free her in her own proper symmetry, political economy is radiant with hope. Yeah, it's very odd how reading this instills hope, but also anti-hope. He wrote this 150 years ago. And things kind of have plodded along. I do not live in hell, but but I do not live in heaven. For properly understood, the laws which govern the production and distribution of wealth show that the want and injustice of the present social state are not necessary, but that on the contrary, a social state is possible in which poverty would be unknown, and all the better qualities and higher powers of human nature would have opportunity for full development. If you've ever listened to Dan Carlin's Hardcore History, they're always super interesting. I haven't listened in years though. But there was this time he would sometimes talk about how he himself is very interested in seeing humans in extreme conditions, which tends to always be extremely desperate in his stories. He doesn't seem to spend too much time talking about the conditions when somebody is like extremely happy and wealthy and healthy. But anyway, there is this weird, maybe I've read too many books, but there is this weird fascination or desire with being put in extreme conditions. You know, the closest I come is a loved one passing away, or I don't know, worrying that I have to ask parents for money or something. I don't know. It's like I don't want to go to war, but I want I I don't anyway. Um, Radiant with hope. For properly understood, I guess there's this part of me that is sort of yeah, like what happens when we get to that Star Trek post-scarcity world. I I do have to make some like I have to like sort of convince myself that that would be not just this boring place. Heaven has always sounded boring to me. You have to say like, "Oh, there's nothing higher than being united with your creator and joining with him and worship forever and ever and you'll just be constantly 100% fulfilled and happy." Is the way it's been sort of described. And yet, it sounds boring. I don't know. In War and Peace, Tolstoy talks a lot about has a character, Prince Nikolai, I think, who talks about like happiness is in like deprivation and then and then fulfillment. The Janning says in chat, just imagine how many more interesting and new recreational opportunities people invent. That's like I have a StarCraft match, and this is a video game I play coming up today, and land value tax does not solve that, and I wouldn't want it to, and I am nervous about it, and I care about it, um, and it's so fun. Like if I were right now in a war zone, I wouldn't care at all about it. Um, yeah. For properly understood, the laws which govern. It's nice to see you, Janning, here in the final Henry George Daily Devotional, yeah. I mean, I was trying to go through it quicker, but I can't help myself. For properly understood, the laws couldn't miss it. Oh, Patrick is here too. Enraptured. That's funny because this says there's two people here, and one is always me. So I don't know. Restream.io is what's the word? Unreliable narrator. But is George an unreliable narrator? I don't know. Let's go. For properly understood, the laws which govern the production and distribution of wealth show that the want and injustice of the present social state are not necessary, but that on the contrary, a social state is possible in which poverty would be unknown, and all the better qualities and higher powers of human nature would have opportunity for full development. Yeah, somebody ping John. Get him in the chat. We should. We're finishing we're finishing all this work for him. Today, right now, is the conclusion of progress and poverty, and maybe the last HGDD. You're invited. Um, I think his position is that he agrees. He thinks it may not be as significant as George and I and some of us might think. Uh, and then he also says most likely that, probably won't really ever happen. And that also he might also not think things are as bad as maybe George makes out, and some of us might also believe. He says he can be here in 10 minutes. Well, I guess we'll keep. I don't know, for the final, the final episode of the season or of a series. It gets to be double in length, right? Can go for an hour special. I, I don't want to have to deal with editing. We could also take a break and then have to edit these videos. That's no fun. Or or we just go on without them. What's the vote? Grand finally. Um, the word counter. Hmm. Yeah, that's how you spell finale. Hmm. What shall we do then? Shall we continue in sin that grace may abound? May it never be. I guess I can stop the recording. Alright, it stops the recording. We can, because I didn't want to have to use, it's not that hard to trim videos. I'm sure I can, I just don't. I don't like opening up software ever. I have used FFmpeg once or twice before. I'm sure, yeah. For this finale, it can be done. All right, is there something we feel like reading about Georgism here in our 10 minutes ish? I know, well, I mean, I have. We go to our Georgism tabs. I have all these tabs of things that were Georgist related that I haven't read. Um, oh, there's an OBS. You can just pause. Hmm. I clicked stop recording. That's okay. I mean, I'll figure that out. It's not. But if I had learned that before, I don't think the format is MKV. I think it's just MP4. Yeah, like here's the video that we just finished recording. MP4. All right, bookmarks, Georgism, Whiggism, Monopoly Secret History, Cooperative Individualism, Saving Communities, Howard Jarvis. Oh yeah, I never finished Jamal's paper, Privatize the Methods, Publicize the Profits. Oh yeah, we have meetings. Oops. From meetings. What was this? Cheap flights from Los Angeles. The Fed has lost control of the money supply. George's concept of money. Stephen Zarlinga. Saving communities. You say the pause button is next to stop? I have start virtual camera studio mode. Settings. I mean, maybe there was a button down here. Yes. Gaze into the infinite. Tom L. Johnson. Oh yeah, I never got this book. Huh. It's cool. Needlework. I feel like the button that appears is that replaces start recording is just stop recording is what appears for me. But maybe I mean, I've done this every day now for a while. Maybe there's a pause. Oh, maybe it only appears to be recorded as NKV. Hmm. Hmm. Maybe. Um. Well, it's kind of a bummer. Not a bummer really, but I already read my my um my Substack readings for the day. I go from my email. I don't know how you. Yeah, I read this health blog, which I restacked with a comment. I read most of Astral Codex 10 AI regulation bill recap. Wait, where's J.K. Lund's? That's funny. And then, oh, not on my mind. I never look at this view on Substack. Where do these come from? I mean, I follow David Chapman. I don't know Megan McIsaac or Claire. Okay, Frank Lance liked this post. I don't know where this one comes from. I don't know where this one comes from. Or this one, or this one. And then I don't know what's ordering these, because this is leaving out. Oh, this is what I was talking about. I read this morning. Spaghettifies as you enter into a black hole. I read this yesterday. That's funny. This appears here. I don't wonder why it says 4 minutes left on some of these. I did read the whole essay, but this also seems like it was written. Didn't you publish this like a week ago, Janning? Oh yeah. Well, I mean, how many? Yeah, that's not surprising. It's the book she published. How many? You think maybe she's written more than one book? I don't know. Um, yeah, I'll have to look into recording as MKV if that enables pausing. I mean, I guess we could try it right now. Settings, output, slow, good quality. This is our video encoder bitrate. Audio encoder, that's fine. I don't know what the difference is. It's weird that one is called software and one is called hardware. Those seem orthogonal. General. I remember. Oh, right here, but I can't. Maybe I can't change this while streaming, most likely. Duh. We should watch it. I watched like 2 seconds of it, and then I forget, I was busy and I didn't get back to it.
.5 hours of a public input meeting, so you don't have to.
Messages.
In other words, we live here now.
We need to preserve our view lines. We need to preserve.
We should be your primary focus.
Is actually taking away from employment opportunities and adds more people to use limited recreational opportunities nearby. It's just the characteristic and the uniqueness of that part of Harbor Point.
What the potential development would look like, really looks like. Yeah.
Where even now, with that ugly building, is better than what TriPoint is going to possibly put on there. I have more pictures if you'd like to see what they're actually doing, but I'm asking you to do your job and protect the citizens that elected you.
But the rezoning along the Speedway is going to majorly change our town. So I hope that can get some other attention from the public also.
I'm a motherfucking star. Look at the paint on the car. Too much rim.
Kicking the can. I'm getting fed up, and I'm this close to selling my house and leaving Mukilteo.
I watched 4.5 hours of a public input meeting, so you don't have to.
In other words,
Mukilteo needs to build 2,000 housing units by 2044, yet they denied a middle housing development. Every single one of these council members voted against adding more housing to our region, with one abstaining. Local elections matter. Vote for candidates that also prioritize future residents, younger folks. Why weren't you speaking, Janning? I went to my hometown and I spoke.
I watched 4.
Zoned out Pacific Northwest. I wonder sometimes about local government, even were this to be, a sortition body of all the people in Mukilteo. Mukilteo. Currently it is a bunch of single family homes, and if that was heavily represented in a sortition body in Mukbang Town, wouldn't I don't know if sortition would help that much in this situation. Like they would still be mostly against letting new people come in and densifying. Maybe you could have better deliberation. Um, but so long as we don't have an LVT, if people are purely self-interested at the civic level, without the LVT, it is in that group's best personal interest to prevent other housing. Excuse me. However, like maybe the sortition body could be persuaded to implement a land value tax. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know how I can share this. I mean, I could send it to some people. Is there a I'm sure there's like a strong towns Seattle. Strong towns. Really? I mean, is this just the main strong towns? Uh, Strong. Well, there's people named Strong. Strong towns, Chicago. I mean, look at the reach they have. Doesn't Seattle have do they have like a fancy, cool, trendy abbreviation for Seattle, like PDX? What is PDX? That's Portland. That's right. Duh. That's what I was thinking of, PDX. PNW, Pacific Northwest. Do you think that would be what they would goes by? Strong towns, PNW. Is this the best way to search Instagram? How do people search Instagram? This seems not good. Strong towns. Plus, this is just showing like people I already or recently have searched for. This has made me mad before. Like there are all these strong towns, local chapters. Um, but it seems hard to find them. Like it was a little bit hard for me to find strong towns LA, strong towns Orange County, strong towns Artesia, strong towns Fullerton, but now I've sort of found them all. And they know about each other. But here, events, learn, local conversations. I don't know. Find a group near you. There we go. Isn't this near Strong Towns Port Angeles? They have an email. You should email them this video, Janning. They have a Bellevue. I stayed in Bellevue for a week. Kirkland, Bothell. I've heard of these places. Olympians for people-oriented places. OPOP. Mount Vernon. Bellingham. It's a good soccer player. And then Hodor. Nanaimo. Is there a Strong Towns Spokane? Post Falls. That's where Post Falls is. I guess there's not a Spokane proper. Huh. Oh, there's one over here in Missoula. That's already to Montana, huh? Yeah. There's the border. And then Coeur. Oh, this is Coeur d'Alene. Yes, I have been here. It's so funny how my memory is. I would have put Coeur d'Alene like on the southern side. Huh. That's on the peninsula. Oh, well, I don't know where you grew up. I know that aren't you like located on this side of the, not to, dox you in front of the whole Twitch world. You're, oh no, that's Canada. You're not up there. I don't know where you are. I just found a Bothell. You're here? No, that's Port Bothell. Where was Bothell? Was this No. What? I could have sworn one of these said Bothell. Yeah, that's Bellevue. I thought there was one that said. Oh yeah, there, Bothell. This is your group. Carrie Westerbeck. She needs you. If that's your group. But I thought you were. I don't know where you are. You don't have to tell me. Oh, there's Mulcateo. That's where you're from, huh? I'm from Los Alamitos. Mukilteo. Mucktown. Carrie Westerbeck's a dude? Alright. You ever go to Hyundai of Everett? Mukilteo. Where did this name come from? Was that Native American Lushootseed? historically known as Puget Salish, Puget Sound Salish, or Skagit Nisqually. Snohomish County, Washington. That's a good word right there, Snohomish. It's between Edmonds and Everett. Mukilteo, also named Old Town. Snohomish people for at least 1,000 years before present. How old are you, Janning? 1,000? 1,010? The name Mukilteo is derived from Lushootseed, the language of the Snohomish people and the Coast Salish tribes. The name for the area is Lushootseed is variously spelled as what? It has historically anglicized as Mukilteo and Buckwilteo before finally being named Mukilteo. The etymology of what is disputed, according to anthropologist T.T. Waterman, sources from the Snow. So I don't want to say Snohomish, I want to say Snohomish tribe and other written records. The name's meaning was unclear. Other sources claim that the name means good camping ground or narrow passage. Snohomish. Tribal. Yeah, I don't know what tribes lived in. Like, Los Alamitos is clearly a Spanish name from where I grew up, so the Spanish, they came and did whatever they did. Oh, alright. Are you in the chat, John? You're here? It's time to resume our progress in poverty. Alrighty. I'm hitting the button. We are recording once again here in the final hour of the Henry George Dandley Devotional. Of course, it may rise again. Who knows? All right. We just read that we ought not call the political economy the dismal science. Instead, it should be radiant with hope. I assume. I don't know if John is here. We don't have any confirmation in the chat. He just messaged me on Discord. I can't wait any longer. All right, so political economy. For properly understood, the laws which govern the production and distribution of wealth show that the want and injustice of the present social state are not necessary, but that on the contrary, a social state is possible in which poverty would be unknown, and all the better qualities and higher powers of human nature would have opportunity for full development. And further than this, when we see that social development is governed neither by a special providence nor by a merciless fate, but by law, at once unchangeable and beneficent, when we see that human will is the great factor and that taking men in the aggregate, their condition is as they make it, when we see that economic law and moral law are essentially one, and that the truth which the intellect grasps after toilsome effort is but that which the moral sense reaches by a quick intuition, trust your heart, not your head. A flood of light breaks in upon the problem of individual life. These countless millions like ourselves, who on this earth of ours have passed and still are passing, with their joys and sorrows, their toil and their striving, their aspirations and their fears, their strong perceptions of things deeper than sense, their strong perceptions of things deeper than sense, their common feelings form the basis even of the most divergent creeds. Their little lives do not seem so much like meaningless waste. The great fact which science in all her branches shows is the universality of law. Wherever he can trace it, whether in the fall of an apple or in the revolution of binary suns, the astronomer sees the working of the same law, which operates in the minutest divisions in which we may distinguish space, as does in the immeasurable distances with which his science deals, as it does in the immeasurable sciences with which his science deals. Out of that which lies beyond his telescope comes a moving body, and again it disappears. So far as he can trace its course, the law is ignored. Does he say that this is an exception? On the contrary, he says that this is merely a part of its orbit that he has seen, and that beyond the reach of his telescope the law holds good. He makes his calculations, and after centuries they are proved. Now, if we trace out the laws which govern human life in society, we find that in the largest as in the smallest community they are the same. We find that what seem at first sight like divergences and exceptions are but manifestations of the same principles. And we find that everywhere we can trace it, the social law runs into and conforms with the moral law. That in the life of a community, justice infallibly brings its reward and injustice its punishment. But this we cannot see in individual life. If we look merely at individual life, we cannot see that the laws of the universe have the slightest relation to good or bad, to right or wrong, to just or unjust. Footnote: let us not delude our children, if for no other reason than for that which Plato gives, that when they come to discard that which we told them as pious fable, they will also discard that which we told them as truth. Yes, I recall that Plato was against fables for kids. The virtues which relate to self do generally bring their reward. Either a merchant or a thief will be more successful if he be sober, prudent, and faithful to his promises. But as to the virtues which do not relate to self, it seems a story from the world of spirits when anyone obtains that which he merits, or any merits that which he obtains. I didn't quite follow that, but oh well. There is something, I would say, in opposition to this. There are so many different kinds of systems. You could very easily have a system, I don't find this compelling, the idea that what guides the progression of a small society should stay true for a large society. Because you can imagine systems that have sort of startup conditions and then other conditions which are required to maintain them, right? Shifting gears, so to speak. I guess I'm trying to think of sort of examples. The only thing I keep thinking of saying the same kind of example and over, which is just you have to have some initial spark to start your engine, or the right, ingredients to, what do you call it? I don't know. The right elements present to start a chemical reaction. But like once in motion, both of those examples kind of are carried forward by momentum. I don't know. I just don't see this as compelling. I do believe it. I just don't think that it has to be absolutely necessarily true from some previous a priori, as they might say. Shall we then say that the law which is manifest in social life is not true of individual life? It is not scientific to say so. We should not say so in reference to anything else. Shall we not rather say this simply proves that we do not see the whole of individual life? The laws which political economy discovers, like the facts and relations of physical nature, harmonize with what seems to be the law of mental development. Not a necessary and involuntary progress, but a progress in which the human will, is an initiatory force. But in life, as we are cognizant of it, mental development can go but a little way. The mind hardly begins to awake ere the bodily powers decline. It but becomes dimly conscious of the vast fields before it, but begins to learn and use its strength, to recognize relations and extend its sympathies. When, with the death of the body, it passes away, that was the end of that sentence. It becomes dimly conscious of the vast fields before it, but begins to learn and use its strength, to recognize relations and extend its sympathies. When, with the death of the body, it passes away. Unless there is something more, there seems here a break, a failure. Whether it be a Humboldt or a Herschel, a Moses who looks from Pisgah. This is where, like, Moses didn't actually get to enter the promised land because he struck the rock with his staff and got in trouble. Pretty sure he just went up on the mountain or hill of Pisgah and watched Joshua, who led them in. I forget who Herschel Walker and Humboldt were, but is it Herschel Walker? Oh, well, that's definitely not the Herschel he's talking about. My mom grew up in a little town called Humboldt. Well, she lived in a couple little towns. He's just a philosopher, Humboldt. Wilhelm von Humboldt. Oh no. Younger brother. He's Alexander von Humboldt, I guess was the more famous one. A Joshua who leads the host, or one of those sweet and patient souls who in narrow circles live radiant lives. There seems, if mind and character here developed can go no further, a purposelessness inconsistent with what we can see of the linked sequence of the universe. Ignition versus flywheel, yeah. By a fundamental law of our minds, the law in fact upon which political economy relies in all her deductions, we cannot conceive of a means without an end, a contrivance without an object. Now to all nature, so far as we come in contact with it in this world, the support and employment of the intelligence that is in main furnishes such an end and object. But unless man himself may rise to or bring forth something higher, his existence is unintelligible. So strong is this metaphysical necessity that those who deny to the individual anything more than this life are compelled to transfer the idea of perfectibility to the race. But as we have seen, and the argument could have been made much more complete, there is nothing whatever to show any essential race improvement. Human progress is not the improvement of human nature. The advances in which civilization consists are not secured in the constitution of man, but in the constitution of society. They are thus not fixed and permanent, but may at any time be lost. Nay, are constantly tending to be lost, And further than this, if human life does not continue beyond what we see of it here, then we are confronted with regard to the race with the same difficulty as with the individual. For it is as certain that the race must die as it is that the individual must die. We know that there have been geologic conditions under which human life was impossible on this earth. We know that they must return again. Even now, as the earth circles on her appointed orbit, the northern ice cap slowly thickens, and the time gradually approaches, when its glaciers will flow again, and austral seas sweeping northward bury the seats of present civilization under ocean wastes. As it is global warming, as it may be, they now bury what was once as high a civilization as our own, and beyond these periods, science discerns a dead earth, an exhausted sun, a time when, clashing together, the solar system shall resolve itself into a gaseous form, again to begin immeasurable mutations. But what then is the meaning of life? Of life absolutely and inevitably bounded by death? To me, it seems intelligible only as the avenue and vestibule to another life, and its facts seem explainable only upon a theory which cannot be expressed but in myth and symbol, and which everywhere and at all times the myths and symbols in which men have tried to portray their deepest perceptions do in some form express. The scriptures of the men who have been and gone, the Bibles, the Zend Avestas, the Vedas, the Dhammapadas, and the Qurans, the esoteric doctrines of old philosophies, the inner meaning of grotesque religions, the dogmatic constitutions of ecumenical councils, the preachings of Foxes and Wesleys and Savonarolas, I don't know that guy, the traditions of red Indians and beliefs of black savages have a heart and core in which they agree, a something which seems like the variously distorted apprehensions of a primary truth. And out of the chain of thought we have been following, there seems vaguely to rise a glimpse of what they vaguely saw, a shadowy gleam of ultimate relations, the endeavor to express which inevitably falls into type and allegory. A garden in which are set the trees of good and evil, a vineyard in which there is the master's work to do, a passage from life behind to life beyond, a trial and a struggle of which we cannot see the end. Look around today. Lo, here now in our civilized society, the old allegories yet have a meaning. The old myths are still true. Into the valley of the shadow of death yet often leads the path of duty. Through the streets of Vanity Fair walk Christian and faithful. And on great heart's armor ring the clanging blows. So that's like Pilgrim's Progress, and that's Psalm 23. I don't know this. Well, I mean, Valley of Shadows of Death is also in Pilgrim's Progress. I don't know. Ormuzd still fights with Ahriman, the Prince of Light with the power of darkness. He who will bear to him the clarions of the battle call. How they call and call and call till the heart swells that hears them. Strong soul and high endeavor, the world needs them now. Beauty still lies imprisoned, and iron wheels go over the good and true and beautiful that might spring from human lives. And they who fight with Ormuzd, though they may not know each other, somewhere sometime will the muster roll be called. Though truth and right seem often overborne, we may not see it all. How can we see it all? All that is passing even here we cannot tell. The vibrations of matter, which give the sensations of light and color, become to us indistinguishable when they pass a certain point. It is only within a like range that we have cognizance of sounds. Even animals have senses which we have not. And here, compared with the solar system, our Earth is but an indistinguishable speck, and the solar system itself shrivels into nothingness when gauged with the star depths. Shall we say that what passes from our sight passes into oblivion? No, not into oblivion. Far, far beyond our ken, the eternal laws must hold their sway. The hope that rises is the heart of all religions. The poets have sung it, the seers have told it, and in its deepest pulses the heart of man throbs, responsive to its truth. This that Plutarch said is what in all times and in all tongues have been said by the pure-hearted and strong-sighted, who standing as it were on the mountain tops of thought, and looking over the shadowy oceans, have beheld the loom of land. Men's souls, encompassed here with bodies and passions, have no communication with God, except what they can reach to in conception only, by means of philosophy, as by a kind of an obscure dream. But when they are loosed from the body, and removed into the unseen, invisible, impassable, and pure region, this God is then their leader and king. They there, as it were, hanging on him wholly, and beholding without weariness, and passionately affecting that beauty which cannot be expressed or uttered by men. And that's it. We have finished reading Progress and Poverty, an inquiry into the cause of industrial depressions and increase of want with increase of wealth, the remedy, by Henry George, published in 1879. There may not be a next time. There'll probably be a next time. Yeah, the whole final third of Progress and Poverty is just about the possibility of the human species that we could unlock if we were to live in justice. It is mostly ignored by Lars Doucet in his writings, which is fine. He is definitely of the soft sell. Anyway, I feel like the powerful concluding words have now been dampened by my random commentary. I'm now ending the recording. See you. Alright. Recording ended. Yeah, there's also this fear among Georgists that the reason Georgism sort of lost out in the 20th century was due to panacea mongering by claiming that the land value tax and land monopoly are the end-all be-all of reform. Yeah, I don't know. Episode 119. This is why you'll always hear Lars Doucet and other Georgists be like, I don't believe in a silver bullet, blah, 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 blah. I've come to believe that it is somewhat of a silver bullet. However, I don't think voting in the land value tax itself is a silver bullet because I feel like it could be very easily repealed, and as soon as like I don't know how do you defeat the plutocracy? This is why I almost feel like a more core change would be governance through sortition, where the people govern them. Like all of the beautiful claims of democracy that we grew up hearing and that we've kind of pretty much, I mean, everyone still pays homage to it in word, but de facto nobody believes in all of the claims of beautiful democracy and beautiful for the people by the people rule as being this great vessel of justice and freedom. But I think sortition promises a lot of that, and that would be one of the ways of implementing the land value tax. All right, well, I do now have my StarCraft match. Um, um, hmm. His flower language at the end is moving. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I could just upload these in two parts, but I don't know. I'll decide that later. All right, I'm ending the stream. So long.